Jesus and his disciples were in Jerusalem for a very special time, the Passover celebration. Long ago, God's people were servants in the land of Egypt. They cried out to God to rescue them, and He rescued them in a mighty way. God had told the Israelites to always remember how He freed them from the Egyptians.
Celebrating Passover was one of the ways they remembered what God had done for them. This Passover, though, was the most special Passover because God was about to rescue His people again. This time, He would free people from the power of sin, and He had sent His own Son to do the job. Jesus sent two of His disciples, Peter and John, to get the Passover meal ready. He said, "Go into the city and you will meet a man carrying a jug of water.
Follow him." Jesus said that the man will go to a house, and the owner of the house will show Peter and John a large room upstairs where they could get the Passover meal ready. So Peter and John did as Jesus said. When the meal was ready, Jesus and his disciples sat around the table to eat. Jesus knew it was almost time to go back to his Father in heaven.
Jesus said, "One of you will turn against me."
Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi?" Jesus answered, "Yes, it is you."
The disciples were upset, but Jesus knew this was part of God's plan. Jesus ate the Passover meal with his disciples. While they ate, Jesus took the bread, broken into pieces, and gave it to his disciples. He said, "Eat this.
This bread is like my body that will be broken for you. Do this to remember me." Then he took the cup, thanked God for it, and gave it to his disciples. "Drink this," Jesus said. "This drink is like my blood. My blood makes the new covenant." After the meal, Jesus and his disciples sang songs and went to a mountain outside of the city. When Jesus and the disciples arrived, there was not a servant to wash their feet. So Jesus poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with a towel. Peter said to him, "Master, you shouldn't be washing our feet like this." Jesus replied, "You don't understand now why I am doing it. Someday you will." "No," Peter said, "you shall never wash my feet." "But if I don't, you can have no part with me," Jesus replied. Peter said, "Then wash my hands and head as well, not just my feet." Jesus answered, "A person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean.
Jesus and his disciples went to a garden to pray. Jesus told 8 of his disciples to stay at the garden gate. 3 of the disciples went into the garden with Jesus. He told them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Jesus was very sad. He fell face down and prayed, "Father, if it is possible, do not let this happen, but I want to do your plan."
Jesus went back to his disciples, but they were sleeping. "Couldn't you stay awake with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. Jesus left again to pray. He came back and his disciples were sleeping again. "Get up," Jesus said. "It is almost time." Jesus knew it was time for him to do God's plan to rescue people from sin. All of a sudden, another disciple, Judas came into the garden.
A large crowd was with him, and the people carried swords and clubs. Judas kissed Jesus so the crowd would know which man was Jesus. The people in the crowd grabbed Jesus to arrest him. Peter pulled out his sword to fight the crowd, but Jesus told him to stop. Then Jesus said, "This is happening just like God said." Jesus' disciples all left, but Peter stood back to watch what was happening.
The crowd led Jesus away to the high priest. The religious leaders wanted to find a reason to kill Jesus, but Jesus had done nothing wrong. The high priest asked Jesus, "Do you have anything to say? Are you the Messiah, God's Son?" Jesus said, "Yes, that's right." The high priest and the religious leaders did not want to believe that Jesus was telling the truth, so they said he was lying.
They said he deserved to die. As Peter watched, a servant came up to him. "Aren't you one of Jesus' friends?" he asked. But Peter said, "No, I'm not." 2 more times people asked Peter if he was Jesus' friend. Peter lied. "No," he said, "I don't even know him." The next morning, the religious leaders made a plan to kill Jesus and took him away to Pilate, the governor. Peter declared, "Even if all fall away, I will not." "Peter," Jesus said, "before the rooster crows a second time tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times." "No," Peter said, "not even if I have to die with you. I'll never deny you." And all the other disciples said the same thing. Immediately, the rooster crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. "Before the rooster crows a second time tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. But when Jesus returned the second and the third time after more prayer, the 3 disciples had fallen asleep once more. Peter drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus told Peter to put his sword away, and he touched the man's ear and healed him.